everyone. Welcome back to Camp Conversations Parenting Edition. Today, I am so excited and so honored to be welcoming Victoria Nolan. She is first and foremost a mother, a Paralympian rower, a world-class athlete, a relentless advocate for inclusion and possibility. And after losing her sight to a degenerative disease, she took up rowing and climbed the ranks to world champion. She's a motivational speaker, an author that helps us shift perspectives and see that our limits are not fixed. Our conversation today is focused on fostering resilience, how to make our kids proud, and the power of embracing failure and challenges. I am so honored to have her here. This is the first time that I've had to take extra notes to introduce a guest because she has so much going on, and this is a wonderful conversation. I can't wait for you to dive in. Welcome to Camp Conversations Parenting Edition, everyone. I am so excited today to talk to Victoria Nolan. I had to reach out to her after I listened to her TED Talk. And in her TED Talk, she spoke about how her life experiences were of overcoming adversity and the importance of embracing challenges. And she spoke from her experience of being a Paralympic rower, and how when I heard this TED Talk, it just really resonated with me in the work that we're doing here with camp, which is all about filling ourselves up from within so we can take on external challenges. And Victoria is just such a beautiful example of this. And so thank you, Victoria, for being here today and for speaking with me. And I'm so excited to dive into this conversation with you.
Thanks. I'm excited too. It sounds like a good fit.
Perfect. Just to start off, I would love to hear just a snapshot of who you are from your perspective, because I don't think I could do it full justice by explaining it from everything that I've read.
Well, I would say first and foremost, I'm a mother. I have two kids who are now in university, which is kind of crazy. Time flies. So enjoy every moment because all of a sudden they're graduating from university. Um, how would I describe myself? Obviously, being a world champion rower is a big part of my identity. That was huge for me. Becoming who I am now. Who I am now is a very driven, goal-oriented person who really wants to inspire others to, I guess, acknowledge what we are capable of. I think my biggest learning over my journey has been what humans can actually achieve. And I know we hear about it all the time, that it's all in your mind, what's holding you back, but I've honestly experienced it. And yeah, we're capable of amazing things.
Mm-hmm. Even when we're faced with such tough decisions, and we always have this choice of what we're going to do with that decision.
Yeah, I would say that even more so when you have those challenges in front of you, you have that opportunity then to become stronger. And if you're living a pretty ordinary life, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you've got those challenges to take on, I mean, we'll get more into this, but I think it really can enrich your life. And you might not see that at the beginning, but those opportunities are there.
Mm-hmm. I would love to dive into this first question because I think you've created such a beautiful segue. The majority of listeners to camp are parents. One of the things that they care the most about is fostering resilience in their children and helping them be full from within so that they can take on challenges of choice, and they can also deal with the challenges that life throws at them. And so when we started polling our audience to see what they wanted to know from you, one of the biggest questions they had was, looking back, Do you feel like anything prepared you for the challenges ahead? And I think they were speaking specifically to knowing that you were going to go blind. And they also want to know, and specifically to then entering the world class rowing stage and sitting at a starting line. And they want to know, for all of these instances of the challenges that you faced, was it worth preparing for these challenges? Even when, for example, with losing your sight, that was an uncertain challenge that you wouldn't know fully how to prepare or what to do. And then sitting at a starting line at a world class rowing event, that is a little more specific. And so, were there
Hmm.
differences in preparing for the two? Was it worth preparing for either? Or do you have more examples of challenges that you faced?
Yeah, there's a lot in there, so you might have to remind me some of the pieces. But to start off, I would say there is a lot of similarities in facing the challenge of losing your sight and sitting at the start line because so change is something that we're all really afraid of, and
Mm-hmm.
it's because it's unknown. And so that's true of blindness too. Like I know people are terrified of blindness
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know much about it, right? You probably haven't met someone who's blind. You don't know how you would cope with it if it happened to you. So it's really scary.
Mm-hmm.
Same with any change, really. That's what fear is. It's not knowing how you're going to cope with it and not knowing what's ahead. So I think in dealing with any challenge, the trick is first of all accepting that okay, it's you don't have to like what's happening, but you have to accept that okay, I'm going to go down this journey and I'm going to figure out how to navigate it. Because the alternative is that you just stay where you are and nothing changes, nothing improves. So if you accept, like, okay, I'm going to figure this out, and then you start to learn things about what your challenge is, you talk to people who've been there before, you get support from other people, you understand the challenge, and you have a plan of when things go wrong, which you know they will. When things go
Mm-hmm.
wrong, what am I going to fall back on?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I said that, falling back on a plan, that's how we would deal with racing. Because you're in a boat, you can't control the water, you can't control the weather, can't control the
Mm-hmm.
other boats around you, but you have a race plan and you know how you're going to get to that finish line and you have control over that. So whatever else is going on around you, you stick to that plan, you have confidence in that plan, and at the end of the race, you can look back and go, okay, I did what I set out to do, regardless of what the outcome is.
Mm-hmm.
I stuck with my plan.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's so many great things there. If I could just take away some key points from what I'm hearing you say, is that you found such value in having this proactive plan, of having a vision of what the outcome is that you're
Hmm.
hoping for.
Hmm.
And then,
And sorry, just to jump in, it's so important that you have control
over that vision.
over that vision, because you
Mm,
can wish, oh, I want a gold medal. You don't have control over that. So then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But if your
mm,
goal is every time I feel tired in this race, I'm going to sit up tall, then you have control over that and you can assess that at the end.
hmm. Okay. And then I liked the piece of sort of the risk mitigation plan of,
Hmm.
if things go sideways, here are maybe the resources I'm going to use. Here, maybe I can't actually do something about it in the moment, but I can
Hmm.
control still how I complete or finish this.
Yeah.
Um, and
And then
sorry,
go ahead.
I'm just drawing this as a parallel to so many of the challenges that I hear coming from our audience or our camp members, and the tools that they can use with this parallel is that of not necessarily getting so stuck up on, in the exact moment, what am I going to do? But instead looking at, sometimes in the moment, we don't have total control. but we do
Hmm.
have control in the the mindset that I'm going to have going into this. And then I
Hmm.
do have control at the point of closure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's another piece that's been really important for me, which is I always describe it as looking at things differently, which is really funny for someone who's blind to look at things differently. But there is always a way to appreciate something um, when things are going wrong.
Mm,
I'll give you some examples. A really simple example is so when we would go somewhere with the kids when they were little,
mhm,
it's very difficult for me to navigate crowds and things.
mhm,
So, say for example, if we get off the subway at Young and Bloor, it's just like chaos. So we
mhm,
would hang back while everyone else, rushes through, and then once the subway is a little more clear, then we would walk through and we'd have an easier time.
mhm,
And it's really easy to go like, oh, it's so annoying. Like we have to wait and like, why can't people just be more considerate and complain about it. But we learn to appreciate that time of, you just step back, you don't get all stressed, you take a deep breath, we chat. And I mean, it's really simple, but just finding something that you can see a sort of silver lining
mhm,
with. My husband and I have said, like, I wonder if I had sight, if we would be as close as we are.
mhm,
Simple things like I can't drive, so we're always having to figure out, when the kids were growing up, how are we going to get them here and there? We would do things together, so we had a really close relationship. So,
mhm.
yeah, I mean, maybe we would have anyway, but it's nice to kind of try and find a way to appreciate your situation, even if it could be interpreted as a bad situation.
Yes, having that mindset shift and
Hmm.
seeing that silver lining. And I hear I so often have to utilize this tool on myself, but I also we use it regularly in camp, and it's always ranking our values. And it sounds like you've used that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've used that a little bit in creating that mindset shift. It sounds like connection with your family really ranks high on your values, so that you're
Yeah.
using that value to see the silver lining in some of the things that would be annoyances or challenges.
Yeah, for sure. And being flexible to maybe shift what those values are given a situation, right? Like, so I used to be a teacher,
Mhm,
and when I lost my sight has deteriorated gradually. So it
mhm,
finally got to a point where I needed some help to teach.
mhm.
And when I went to my principal, who had worked with for a long time, and told her, starting to struggle, I'm going to need support. She tried to talk me into quitting, and she said that
Wow.
parents wouldn't want someone with a disability teaching their kids.
Wow.
And I had wanted to teach since I was a little kid. Like this had been a lifelong dream. I had done so much working towards being a teacher. And I was just devastated when,
Mm,
I'm being told, like, you're not good enough to be a classroom teacher. And
mm,
yeah, it was rough. But one of the things that helped me actually find rowing was okay, like this has been a lifelong passion, but that doesn't mean there aren't other things that I could be passionate about. And
mm.
that was a really tough lesson for me because it's like this has been like my North Star my whole life. And it's like now I'm
Yes.
supposed to shift it. But I finally got on board with that idea and like, okay, there's got to be other things that I could love as well. And anyway, the long story short is I found rowing. So I think sometimes you have to be willing to put in some effort to figure out what that goal is or what's going to help you have some passion or purpose in your life
Mm.
that's going to help you get through those tough times as well.
Yes, and I'm hearing something else there too that help me understand if I'm hearing it correctly, but I find sometimes we make our outcome goal, like you said at that start there when you were talking about finishing the race. So many of us make the finishing goal something like standing on the podium,
Hmm.
or when it's around supporting my kids, having them achieve a certain thing, or when it's around
Hmm.
myself, a specific achievement. And when we can flip that back to a value, like having purpose in my life, something that makes me
Mm-hmm.
want to get out of bed every day because I feel like I'm accomplishing or contributing or whatever that may
Mm-hmm.
be, then it gives us more flexibility in achieving that end vision or continuing to work towards it because it can be in different environments.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm. I love those examples. Um, I also wanted to ask one more question because when you brought up having been a teacher, and then it gives me goosebumps actually to hear that your principal responded to you that way, and it's so disappointing. And I'm curious, when you reflect back on teaching, I know you do a lot of advocacy work right now. It just made me think of the other night for my own kids, because they're still young and in school. We had to
Mm-hmm.
do reading logs. And as we were doing this reading log at home, and it was something that I used to do when I was a teacher, send home reading logs, I was panicked because it was a night where I was home alone. And so I didn't have my partner there to switch off on other duties or with my other
Mm-hmm.
child. And I realized some of my unconscious bias as a teacher made me think that this is just a normal practice. And yet it is a practice that for some families, and you gave some great examples of having to drive together and um, that it doesn't necessarily work. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, when you reflect back on your own professional life as a teacher, are there other things that ever pop up into your head that you're like, oh, now being in the position I'm in now, would I have done it differently then to be more inclusive? Or do you have strategies looking forward that you think would help? I know that's a really big question, and this is just me thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, I'd like to think that I was very inclusive. Obviously there were things I could have done
Hmm.
that would have been more. I taught special education, which
Okay.
I think helped me there was a lot more flexibility there in being able to accommodate kids and be a little more flexible. I
Hmm.
think sometimes teachers get so caught up in meeting those curriculum expectations,
Hmm.
that they lose sight of what's really important and how you can support families. So I think, yeah, I really felt very strongly that teachers shouldn't be dictating what goes on at home.
Mm.
So I tried I've seen some really good examples, like, yeah, just more choice, like not having homework every night, but, complete these three things by the end of the week, or, making
Hmm.
sure that families have the opportunity to fit it in with their lifestyle.
Hmm.
But I definitely think there is more of there's still a lot of that old school kind of thinking around, yeah, how that homework and that connection with home I think should be, yeah, way more flexible.
I mean, and I think it speaks to the value of the work that you're doing by sharing your story.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it, I mean, for me, if I reflect personally on my own practices and some of my current practices that are unintentionally uninclusive,
Mm-hmm.
it has a big piece of it is lack of awareness and
Right.
lack of education.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, let's use this to jump into our next question. So I'm fair to our camp members that we're so excited to ask you things. um, and this really ties in nicely. So one of our audience members said that they really noticed that you spoke about not wanting your kids to grow up seeing you as someone that couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're curious, how do you practice this? Not just in big moments, but in quiet, everyday moments.
Yeah.
And I
So
think
that. Mhm.
you started telling us with the subway example is the first example.
Yeah. Yeah. But the funny thing is the rowing journey I did not set out to do anything big. It was actually just to make my kids proud. In the
Mm,
sense of like, yeah, my mom's blind, but she loves to do this. When I first set out to do it, I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be something physical. So they could say like, yeah, my mom's blind, but she runs or so it was really just about that initially. And then it kind of snowballed into something
wow.
bigger. Um, but yeah, it was, I guess, just for me with a disability. I remember hearing a woman speak about how her kids were embarrassed. So she had a cane, she was blind, and her kids would say, "Wait on the corner when you pick us up from school because we don't want the other kids to see."
Mm,
And that really bothered me. And so, yeah, I just wanted them to see me as someone who was out and being active. So it was never intended to be, big moments. So
mhm,
it did start out very small. And yeah, things like on the subway. Um, and I mean, as a role model, but also when they're facing challenges, again, like saying, okay, well, you have a choice. Either do nothing or you face this and you take it on.
mm,
That's kind of what we always go back to. And it's actually, um, kind of similar to my eye disease. And when I first lost my sight, it's progressed from losing your peripheral vision, then you lose your central, then you lose it all, right? So
yeah.
when they were young, I still had some central vision. So it's like you can just see like what's right in front of you. So
Mm,
just focus on that, take on what's in front of you, and keep moving forward.
mm,
But I would also say I am extremely independent, to a fault for sure. But I do everything around the house. Like up until the last couple of years, I was still cooking and doing stuff around the house. It's not like I ever let people do something for me. So
mm,
they were seeing that all the time as someone who could. And all of this stuff that I took on too, like I do the motivational speaking.
mhm.
I don't know, I'm just getting out into the community. Yeah.
Right. And and I hear that story or that woman speaking and the embarrassment, it almost you flipped that into sort of a motivational spark for you.
Yes. Yes. And it actually got to the point where my kids would volunteer that information. Like, my mom's blind and she rows for Canada. Like, it was something they wanted to tell people.
Yeah, something that became a source of pride. And
Yeah.
then what? I'm so curious now, too, when you're saying, hey, I just started rowing just to make my kids proud. But I mean, obviously something kicked in there while you were rowing and really helped you
Yeah.
progress. What was that?
So, yeah, it was little things. Okay, here's a great thing to think about, which is when an opportunity presents itself,
Hmm.
say yes. And you can always, like, back out of it later if you don't like it or you're not happy with it. But I have heard that women, especially, are more likely to, when an opportunity presents itself, women are more likely to put up a bunch of barriers and be like, oh, I can't do that because of this and this and this.
Mm,
Whereas if you just like give it a try, and then you at least will have some firsthand knowledge of whether you want to take it on or not. So I did the Learn to Row program, and they invited me to join the competitive team because they had a team for people with disabilities.
okay.
And I was like, no, I'm not competitive. Like, this was just to get me out of the house. But then I
Mhm.
realized, oh, but if I do join this team, it means I can get on the water more often because I fell in love with the sport right away.
Wow.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity. So I started training with them, and we had our first race, which I didn't care about the race. It was just a day out. It was on Center Island, and I'm going to be on the
Yeah.
water. It's awesome. And so we had our race, and we finished in last place. And that's when I realized I don't like to lose. And I had never had that opportunity before because of my vision loss. I stayed away from sports all through
Um,
high school and stuff. And so, yeah, that lit something in me. And then I was like, okay, I want to start winning.
wow.
And yeah, each time opportunities came up, like because I loved it so much, I was on the water all the time. I was getting stronger and faster. I started submitting numbers of my scores, and they invited me to try out for the national team. And that was like out of left field. I was like, what?
What?
and almost said no because it's like, it's not like I'm going to make it. Like, why would I go all the way there and try out?
Mm,
And that whole idea of like, well, this is a good opportunity. And then I can always say to my kids, hey, 1 year I tried out for the Canadian national team.
yeah.
So why not just do it? And yeah, and then I made the team. And it goes on and on like that. Honestly, it's like opportunity comes up. Why not? I'll try it. And I guess that's obviously it's because I have this competitive need in me. So once I say I'm going to do something, I go
Yeah.
all in. But I don't think there's any harm in trying something and deciding after the fact, yeah, that wasn't really for me, but at least give it a shot.
Yes, I love this. It's and I hear you saying you have this competitive need, but I also hear you saying you have this value of embracing failure and
Yes.
modeling that, and it's
Yeah.
okay because I think so many of us shy away from that, and you're just the perfect living example of like, no, there was a good chance of failure, but I jumped in anyways because just
Yeah,
jumping in was modeling
exactly. Like that's a
resilience and
success.
bravery.
Yeah, to have the nerve to go out there and do that, like that's a win right there.
Yeah. And I love this example because so many parents and educators and facilitators always ask me, they're like, how do I teach this resilience? Give me an activity to teach it. And I always say, no, actually, first, it starts with you. Like,
Mhm.
where are they seeing resiliency? And
Mhm.
I love that you said that, like, your kids were your motivation to just model, like, yes, I've been
Mhm.
thrown this adversity. Yes, you too in your life. It's going to look different, but you will be faced with adversity. And now, what am I going to do with it? How am I
Mhm.
going to keep moving forward? And
Mhm.
just for the audience listening, one of my favorite activities to while you're modeling this simultaneously, I'm doing air quotes to teach it, um, is my family at the dinner table every night when we were away on, like, if we ever went on a ski trip or we were at a soccer tournament or a sports, when we gathered at the dinner table, we would all share our biggest wipeout of the day or like um, sports failure of the day. And I think my
Mhm.
parents unintentionally were doing exactly what you said you have done. They were showing us like it's okay. It's okay to fail. And
Mhm.
it's almost
Mhm.
fun to jump in and accept those challenges because now we can connect over it.
Yes, I love
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
That's also such a great way to get your kids talking because you say, "How was your day?" "Fine." "What'd you do?"
Yeah.
"Nothing."
Yeah. And I actually do the exact same thing whenever anyone asks me, how are you? How was your day? Okay. But if someone asks
Yeah.
me like, tell me something that you failed at recently.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
deep, good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
um, okay, let's use that as our segue to this third question. And we have been touching on this the whole time, how we use values as anchors in camp. Always values as our decision making tool because it's so easy to get swayed by what ifs and to dos.
Mhm.
And um, are there other values? I mean, we've touched on a few. Well, I've tried to pull a few out of what you've been saying, and hopefully I've been doing that all right.
Yes.
Are there other ones that keep you grounded when your goals feel? I mean, you have another book coming out. Are still growing. Like you still have these goals up in the future. So, are there values that you use to keep you grounded moving forward? And were there values that you've used in the past to help keep things clear when life gets messy?
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much values, but I need to feel a sense of accomplishment every
Mm,
day. And so I always have very small goals to hit each day so I can feel good at the end
mm,
of it. So I may have things like way down the road that I'm hoping to accomplish.
yes.
But yeah, I have anchors every day. So I still work out every single day. It's just part of my routine. It's the first thing I do.
Okay.
So at the very least, I know I can feel good that I've done that.
Mm,
Um, and then I'll usually have two or three goals for work that I want to accomplish, small goals that I know I can just, pretty easily check off. And then two or three personal.
mm,
And the smaller you can make them, the better, because then it's very easy to check them off.
mm.
So I
Give me
think
some examples.
sometimes, so it can seem overwhelming sometimes. Like let's say for work, I want to partner with this organization and we're going to develop this plan. Well, today I'm just going to send the email to them asking them if we can set up a phone call. And then that's like
Mhm,
the smallest step I could take today to getting towards that bigger goal.
mhm.
Um, yeah, and then um, personal goals. Can I talk about an app that I love to use?
I would love that.
Okay, there's an app called Fabulous. I don't know if you've heard
Okay.
of it.
No.
So it's taught me a lot. That's actually where I've learned a lot about that, about the smallest things you can do to feel accomplished. And they take you
Mm,
through these journeys. And it starts with the very first thing is every morning when you wake up, drink a glass of water.
mm.
And it starts to build on those. It's kind of like a habit
Habit
forming,
builder.
but they build in values and um, it really helps you, I think, with realizing that when things seem overwhelming, there are really small things that you can do. Like, here's a kind of a silly example, but it's like, oh my gosh, like I need to clean the bathroom. It's like, okay, well, what if you just spend 5 minutes cleaning right now? That's it, just 5 minutes. And then you're surprised at how much you actually got done in 5 minutes that otherwise you would have been like, oh, it's too overwhelming. I can't do anything.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. Just so feeling those little accomplishments throughout the day, that keeps me going. And then I know that I'm moving closer to whatever that bigger goal is.
Hmm. And are you, I mean, this is a theme that I see, again, bias, but I find whenever I talk to, um, for some reason, moms in particular, probably because they go through a phase of holding so many balls up in the air at the same time, that are also um, chasing professional aspirations, athletic aspirations, tend to have these very, very busy brains where it's
Hmm.
like, I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about this, and there's this I want to check off and check off. And I love how you said, like, just set the 5 minute timer,
Hmm.
because for me, I mean, that 5 minute timer all of a sudden helps me just be like, okay, in this moment, this task.
Yeah.
And is that kind of where you're going with that? Like, if you were to leave it loosey goosey of like, you have to get the bathroom done today, then every time you go to do the bathroom, you're like, oh, but then I could also send that work
Yeah.
email or that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, and then you can get sucked into a task, and the next thing you know is like, where did the time go? But it's like if you set
Mm-hmm.
yourself timers, then you know, okay, then I can move on to the next thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you also, I mean, you kind of gave a great example when you were talking about slowly losing your sight. And first, you lost the peripheral vision, and you could only see right when
Hmm.
you were looking directly at something.
Hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so, and you were saying, using that as a metaphor to just, sometimes you just have to see that thing
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
moment
Yeah. Exactly.
and knock out all the other fears and the surrounding pieces.
Yeah. Quiet that noise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is that a silver lining piece for you? Like, is that a lesson that you have learned? I
I
think that's a really tough question, but
Yeah, I think it's a coping strategy. That's how I would
mm,
describe it.
okay.
Um, yeah.
And I also really, now that we're talking about looking forwards and goals and aspirations and how daunting and exciting that is simultaneously, can you tell me about, you just finished your second book?
Yeah.
Can you tell our audience about it? It's not out yet.
It is not out yet, and it's actually so my first book was an autobiography. This book's a little different.
Mhm.
So my friend has the same eye disease as me, and we always hear people saying, "Well, no one wrote the book on how to go blind," and there really isn't that kind of support out there. It's like, okay, like I just got this diagnosis. 'Cause a lot of people who have in their 20s, and it's just like, what do I do now? So we've
Mhm.
put together sort of like a manual on how to cope with it. And yeah, some of it's like what we talked about today about acceptance and recognizing you're going on this journey. But then we've also put really practical stuff in there around accessible technology and
Mhm.
yeah, what supports are out there for sports and things like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it'll be good for anyone who gets the diagnosis, but I think it's also really good for family and friends to know. Again, like I said, like so you don't have that fear. It's like, okay, other people have done this. There is supports. There's ways around it. It's all here in this book. So
Mhm. I'm not recreating the wheel. I can relate
yeah,
to mother's
yeah.
journey. Mhm.
But
And
go ahead.
so you also do motivational speaking.
I am, yeah. So I'm actually. It always sounds crazy when I talk about everything that I'm doing in one, one
Yeah.
conversation. But so I'm doing my executive MBA. And
Wow.
so I've decided to start my own speaking business. I have been doing motivational speaking for like 14 years now, but I've never really, put a concentrated effort into doing it. So starting that up. Also, there's a movie being made about me, about my life story.
Wow.
I know. So someone's gonna play me. They're filming it this summer, and
Oh,
so, I know, yeah. So there's a lot going on. And then yeah, we're working.
where
Mhm.
can people find all of these things?
Good question. So it's supposed to be. I think they're looking to release it in spring of 2026 for the movie. Um, and so they're entering it in film festivals. They're going to showcase it around the country. Um, I do have a website and I'm on like Instagram and LinkedIn and stuff. So if you want to follow me, I
Yeah,
will be
we will link it
posting
in our
info.
show
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been in the works for years, but you never know if it's actually going to come to fruition. But yeah, we're now at the point where they're filming. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, okay, so last question out of respect for time, but I really have to ask, how does it feel to be approached and have people want to make a movie out of you?
It's surreal and like I don't think I'll fully, recognize that it's happening until I'm like going to the theater to see it done because it's just like, oh, maybe it won't actually happen. And like I said, it's been in the works for like 4 years now. So, but how amazing. Yeah. Like to go
Yeah.
from, wanting to make my kids proud of me
Yeah.
to this. Yeah.
To winding up in a theater. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow. Well, I really want to thank you for coming and speaking to me today and answering the questions from our audience. I think we've been able to take some practical strategies that they can use to foster resiliency, to model resiliency. Is, I guess, my key takeaway is really reflecting on if I want my kids to be able to face challenges that life throws at them, then I really have to consider how I am facing or
Hmm.
embracing challenges. And embracing
Hmm.
is really a
Hmm.
key word from this conversation that I've taken away. Is
Awesome.
there
Yeah.
anything else that you would like to share before we close up? And any last thoughts or things that you think I've missed?
Think you've covered everything. On obviously, there's way more that we could talk about, but yeah, I think those are some good points to look at things differently and
Mm.
find that passion that's going to keep you motivated. And yeah, I like how you put it, embrace those challenges and embrace failure.
Mhm. Well, for everyone listening, all of our links to Victoria will be in the show notes. So you can follow her journey. Is your book up for pre-order? If we have a lot of educators that listen to our show, and I
It's going to be out in June, and you'll be able to get it on Amazon.
on Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So we'll put links to everything in the show notes, and I'm really excited to continue following your journey and learning more from you. And yeah, thanks again for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.